UK sports lead, Jonny Keogh. And as our expert contributor for this session, we'll also be joined by Ross Monroe, Head of Commercial in the UK and Ireland at WSC Sports. I'm slightly craning.
I know, I didn't like that fat back four formation there. I was need three at the back.
Well, thanks both, Kelly. Thanks so much, Jonny. Just to sort of set the scene here for those who may not be familiar, could you just give us 60 seconds on the relationship between WSC and YouTube? And maybe more specifically for you, Ross, what role automation plays in the club's YouTube strategies in your perspective?
So the vast majority of our clients are sending an exponential amount of content to YouTube. In many instances, they're creating a lot of automated highlights of the matches, the players, different types of actions, going straight not just to YouTube video, but also to shorts as well, which has seen phenomenal success recently. So for the uninitiated, the people who are not familiar with WSC, we are indexing everything that's coming into the system. We are then, it sits there as part of a catalog or library, and we are then automating content directly to YouTube in many cases. So our clients can do that automatically, completely from end to end, using our rules-based system, or they can do it by setting up a series of triggers, or if they want, they can do it completely manually as well. So there's always that fallback option. So that's the sort of the general approach when many of our clients are publishing content to YouTube.
And I guess YouTube provides the audience, I guess. The WSC is the process to clip the content, and YouTube provides the audience. And that can be young, it can be male, female, of which clubs in the room are trying to attract. But yeah, YouTube is the platform that provides the audience.
Jonny, sticking with you, because I think it's an interesting question. I think if you asked 100 people where they saw YouTube in the sports ecosystem, you get 50 different answers. I'm interested to hear from your perspective where you see YouTube's role within the sports ecosystem.
So YouTube's mission is to give everyone a voice at a very high level. If you look at that from a sports point of view, that's giving fans a voice. Obviously, we've seen the emergence of fan channels, so it's elevating their voice in the wider sports ecosystem. It's giving clubs a voice. I think it was referenced in the last panel. Clubs are publishers and broadcasters at this today anyway, so it's giving the clubs an outlet. Players, we've seen the emergence of players becoming their own creators. Ben Foster's a good example of that. I think YouTube has started to elevate niche sports and women's sports as well. Got a good partnership with DAZN around the Women's Champions League, which we've elevated that competition as well. And I guess finally is around participation as well. I think YouTube is a search hub for people wanting to try new skills or look at new sports. So I guess YouTube's role in sports is very, very varied. It comes from, as I said, participation from a child trying to search how to perfect a particular skill, or it could be right through to searching for, Premier League match highlights, for example. So it's quite varied.
Anecdotally, for my own skills, I've been literally searched on YouTube last week how exactly to strike the ball to get it in from range from my five-a-side. So there you go, there's me learning a skill. I'm interested in hearing the findings from a YouTube perspective when it comes to different content formats, because of course, on YouTube, we've talked already about YouTube Shorts, so we've heard about YouTube Shorts, and that as a role, full-length videos, of course, what YouTube is most well known for, but also live streaming is something that you have the ability to capitalize on. From your findings, who is watching what, and how can clubs best utilize the multiple formats? And maybe it's not just clubs, as you mentioned there's players, there's fans, there's leagues. How are they sort of best using those?
I think when you're creating a content strategy, it's important from the outset to understand who you're trying to target. You can't really create a content strategy without understanding what audience that you're trying to target. The slide here kind of gives you an example of the different types of fandom. As you hear, the majority of fans are in this kind of middle section here around casual fans. But I think as a football club, there's a duty to appeal to all different types of fans, right? There's the fan that's starting out on their journey. They may have developed their fandom of a club through gaming, for example, EAFC and that kind of stuff. Or it might have been through creators. So you have to serve those fans at one end of the spectrum. And at the other end of the spectrum, you might have the 60-year-old season ticket holder who's gone every week for the last 50 years. And there's content that will resonate more with that fan than it will the 6-year-old who might not know which team they want to support in. So I think in terms of YouTube's role within that and working with clubs. I think multi-format is a key part of that. So short-form vertical video YouTube Shorts, that may appeal more to younger fans. It's short, it's snappy, it's fun. And at the other end of the spectrum, you might have live streams, pre-match shows, post-match shows, that kind of stuff. So it's important to capture all of these different fans by producing content in many different formats. And we've seen actually that when you look on a match day, that there are different need states of different fans. So they're typically people come to YouTube to search for post-match highlights. We see that as a big search term. But you've also got to capture some people before the game and during the game. I'm an Arsenal fan. They won 5-0. I was watching the game on Saturday against Crystal Palace, won 5-0. During the game, I think I missed 3 of the goals because I was on my phone. I only saw the last 2 because they're a quick fire at the end. Because I was watching other pieces of content on my phone, YouTube Shorts and long-form video and that kind of stuff. So it's important to multiple formats, but also on multiple devices as well, phone, TV, and that kind of stuff.
And are you finding that across various sports there's a high rate of adoption to this, that people are sort of, you talk about highlights, which is typically what you might think of, but now, of course, there are shorts, there is, behind-the-scenes content. Are you finding that there's a big adoption rate of this, or people sort of coming to terms?
I mean, YouTube Shorts is a product within itself. It's grown so quickly. There's 70 billion views a day of YouTube Shorts alone. So if you think about it from that point of view, it's its own kind of content vertical. I think more wide than that, there's kind of the expanding ecosystem of YouTube is there's multiple formats. So you've got shorts, you've got VOD as we know it, you've got live streams as we know it, but there's also a podcast, which is emerging content strand within YouTube. So there's multiple formats. You've got multiple revenue streams now. There's traditional AVOD as we know, but we've got subscription services, we've got pay-per-view as well. So we're expanding the different revenue streams that are available to partners. And then you've got multiple devices, right? The proliferation of the YouTube app on connected TV devices is on every smart TV now. It's on pay TV broadcast apps as well. So, it's trying to meet every type of fan with every different type of content on any device that they use.
Just on the shorts, and you get captivated quite quickly, but some of the research says that now there's actually different ways of approaching the short strategy as well. There's long-form content within shorts. Is that right? And is that something you've seen?
Yeah, I guess you can do storytelling via shorts, whereas you may have previously done a 5, 6, 7 minute video. You can tell that same story within 55 seconds. I think a good, analogy, one of my partners that I work with, when they are producing YouTube Shorts, they have something called the boredom test. So previously, where they were watching back a 15-minute video, and you would check for editing mistakes like flash frames or that kind of stuff. With Shorts, what they're doing now is actually they're watching back this video, and if at any point of the short they find themselves getting bored, they just chop it out. But that chop might be 2 or 3 seconds. So the key with YouTube Shorts is to maintain retention and engagement, and that's the whole, point of that feed system.
I'm willing to sometimes compromise that editorial quality and just have a clean cut there.
Yeah, I think in terms of quality as well, there's also no harm in low production, shot on mobile shorts. Actually, there's examples coming up of actually for football clubs in particular across EMEA, those are some of the best performing content that we've seen, where it's shot on the phone, it's behind the scenes, it's at the training ground. There's just many different ways that you can use these products to tell your story, whether that's highlights, whether it's an interview, whether it's a listicle style compilation, that kind of stuff.
I've got to say, Jonny, I'm absolutely fascinated by the middle figure there, the during number. I mean, the before and the after, I can sort of pass that, but the during figure is really, really...
like I said, the example from Saturday where I missed 3 of the goals. And, football is the only time that I sit down now and, that I know I have to... It's the last appointment to you. And even then, I waited all week to watch the game, and I'm not properly watching the game.
It's your personal time. You've carved it out. You've got 90 minutes to 2 hours of view time.
Yeah.
we've talked a little bit about sort of different formats in terms of sort of who they're reaching. I'm kind of interested in other ways that YouTube are looking to connect and bring sports to different markets, different languages, different genders, ages. What are some of the other ways that you're working to do that?
Yeah, there was a really good point in the first panel around using AI to translate to different languages. So a new product of ours has got multi-language audio. It provides the ability to upload one video, but in the publishing flow, upload different audio tracks in different languages.
Right.
Within the publishing flow, so there's tons of different languages that you can choose from. So it's really interesting to see that the WSC are providing the ability to do that. I think for football clubs where their fan bases are truly global, especially with a lot of Premier League clubs where they may have players from Southeast Asia where there's a huge following there, and a lot of their views on YouTube comes from those countries. Understanding that there is an audience there to be tapped into in their native language is really key. A good example of someone doing this now is Formula One. So Formula One know that they've got a really engaged audience in the Netherlands because of Max Verstappen primarily. So what they're doing now is for their race highlights, they are publishing the video in English commentary, but there you have the ability within the settings of YouTube to choose between Dutch commentary, French commentary, and Spanish commentary. And the numbers are really, really interesting. That the engagement from people in those countries, native speakers, is really, really high. So it shows you that it's worth doing, increasing the watch time in those, appealing to a global audience.
I guess the question I would ask around that, and then Ross, definitely key to your input as well, is sort of what the turnaround, if indeed there is any turnaround on that, would look like. In as much as, you mentioned the example there of Max Verstappen, sports can have stars come out so rapidly. What does that turnaround look like for the enablers of different multi-language models, or is that something that's instantaneous?
It's very easy for big companies to do this where they know they've got a commentator in that market that has produced it. I've been on the shop floor, so to speak. I used to be an editor in that world, so I know how hard it is to produce stuff very, very quickly, but then also once you've produced it, then try and adapt it and optimize it well. So I am very empathetic to the editors and publishers that are doing that. I think this is where AI has the ability to loosen some of those pressures, of which I guess Ross could speak more about the AI needs.
Yeah, I also just to piggyback on what you mentioned, being first to market as well is crucial. And obviously there's rights restrictions in place, but quite often there's multiple rights holders for the same property. And I think the data is pretty conclusive. If you get your content out there first, it's going to get a lot more traction. And that's where the automation AI comes into it really nicely. And that's not just even for highlights, that's for other types of content as well. And I mentioned a bit earlier about maybe compromising quality, getting the content out of there quickly as possible is definitely a premium. And we even speak to broadcasters now who there is a real urgency and a priority to get it out there as quickly as possible, as opposed to having every single pixel perfect and the audio immaculate as well. So that's something that we've seen. And in terms of just on the automation side and AI, streamlining that and having the system in place so you can turn around that content is obviously a key component.
Yeah, capitalizing on search full time is so important, and it's not just within YouTube as well. It's on, if we think of a wider product, in Google and Google One Box utilizing that. So to back up your point, speed is important. You can go back and obviously change the video if there is an issue with it as well.
Yeah. I'm interested with a lot of hypothetical here, or a lot of sort of theoretical use cases. I'm interested to hear if there are any examples that you have to hand of a club or clubs that you've seen that are sort of leaning into new ways to create. Because it tends to be one person leads the pack and then everyone else is sort of following suit.
Yeah, I think I've got a couple of examples here. I think what we were speaking around, I guess, low production value stuff. This is an example from Bayern Munich. This is, I think in the last 12 months, this is one of the highest viewed pieces of content that's been produced by a football club in Europe. It's very, very simple. It's just a producer with a phone on the training ground. Let's see if this plays.
And I'm feeling good.
That's something that a broadcast camera can't pick up. That's something that the clubs have exclusive access to, and then they're utilizing talent there on the training ground, and you've got to appreciate the frame accurate. editing with the audio track there as well. So one more example of this is from Juventus as well. So this is where a producer is behind the goal and getting up close and personal with Angel Dog players. I think the reason that these two clips in particular have done so well is because it feels like you're there. It feels like you're next to Mane or Di Maria in the training ground. Something that you don't get as close and personal with, TV production as well. And I think another experience, I know Man City in the room, I think this is a really example of a club owning the matchday experience end to end. I know a lot of clubs do matchday live streams, pre-match or post-match, but to have live streams with past players and fans, both pre-match, at half-time as well, which is crazy. The speed to turn that around, even if it's a short 15-minute window, is really, really key. Getting fan feedback instantly, and then the post-game show. It just shows that, whilst the game might be on, if we take the UK, for example, on Sky or TNT, that the ability for a club to own the narrative on YouTube and on their own operated platforms is really, really interesting.
Well, let's talk about sort of some of the great examples we've seen so far. While we've got you, I'm really interested to hear if you've got any sort of new products or features coming in 2024 that would appeal to some of the clubs in the room we have and would sort of help you grow audience and revenue.
Mm-hmm. So I think pay-per-view is a really big one for clubs.
Okay.
It's January still, just January. We've got pre-season coming up in the summer. Obviously, there's Euros. I personally think that pay-per-view is a really, really important outlet for football clubs to utilize. It's one of the only pieces of content in the football calendar, at least, that they own the rights to. There are obviously some tournaments that broadcasters pick up. But I feel like where clubs are playing abroad and doing, US tours or Southeast Asia tours, and where your season ticket holder in the UK can't attend, I think pay-per-view is a good outlet to do this. It's a relatively new product. It can be additional to a club's owned and operated platform or their own pay-per-view service, but it's just widening the exposure of the rights that they own to. So I think that's a really important one for clubs, being able to capitalize on rights that they own and monetize them to a global audience. Multi-language audio, I think, is a huge one as well, which are about global fan bases. So I think where clubs, like I said, have got players in engaged markets, and you can see that in your YouTube analytics, right? You will see that for clubs in the room, their dominant fandom may not actually come from the UK or the US, it may come from other countries. So capitalize on that. And then finally, I think a key one of the live spaces, dynamic ad insertion. So you can do this today. If you have a live stream, you can insert a mid-roll ad in the YouTube live control room by pressing the dollar button in the top right corner. And we're expanding that over the course of the year to try and make it more customizable as well.
I've just got a follow-up question to this, because we speak to a lot of rights holders, and lots of tier 2, tier 3. Many are considering or in the process of building their own OTT player. It can take 2 or 3 years to start making a return on that investment. There's a lot of infrastructure that's needed and resources, etc. Do you see this as an alternative to an OTT?
Yeah, it can be, it can be supplementary to the OTT, right? You can still have your own product, but you are aware that not every fan will go to your own operated platform. This can act as another top-of-funnel approach to capture some of those fans and, most importantly, monetize them as well. And this is where I think pre-season will be a good example.
I think the last one we haven't really touched on, but is of course massive to YouTube beyond even sports, is influencers and where influencers come into all this. Especially because the big project for everyone in sports is capturing young fans and getting the next generation interested and engaged. From a YouTube perspective, how are you seeing influencers playing a role in engaging with those young fans? And do you think we'll see more collaborations, like official collaborations between clubs and creators?
Yeah, I think there's many examples out, right? I think broadcasters are working influencers becoming reporters. There's many examples of that, giving them behind-the-scenes access. a lot of clubs already having a lot of using reporters to do match day features and that kind of stuff, and training ground features. I think the important thing will be for rights owners is being comfortable with sharing their IP with influencers, and there's not that many examples of that so far. DAZN, they partnered with a Brazilian creator called Casemiro. They live streamed the Women's Champions League last year. It was a huge success. Hundreds of thousands of views in Brazil. That's just one example. It's that same creator has also worked the FIFA of the Qatar World Cup. It was actually in terms of concurrent viewership, the quarterfinal between Brazil and Croatia on Casemiro's channel was the second most viewed live stream ever on YouTube, with just over 6 million concurrent viewers. So at least the infrastructure stands up at work. Yeah. So that was a good test. But back to my buy, I think broadcasters and rights owners will have to get comfortable with sharing the prized assets with influencers and having them as trusted alternative commentaries. And this is the key point is around pay-per-view as well, is it will always be supplementary. You know, you're never going to rip up the true broadcast of the game. There can be minor tweaks around scoreboards and graphics and personalization. I think personalization is key of that. But I think it's key to emphasize that this will always be supplementary and additional to serving your core audience. And then you can learn from that, right? If you find pieces of data from an alternative broadcast, you can then start to integrate that into your main broadcast or into your live stream and test and learn by that way, rather than going, from 0 to 1 overnight.
And do you think, I mean, you touched on it there with Casemiro, but do you think the next step is maybe sort of a halfway house between, official broadcast and influencers? It's sort of players or people who are involved in the sport, like Casemiro, like a Ben Foster. Is that sort of the natural conclusion we're heading towards?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ben Foster is at least for UK audience, is the leading light in that, and being an influencer. I think more and more athletes will start to understand the potential in that space, and shaping culture and shaping fandom with their insights and having that behind the scenes access that Ben Foster had, just taking a GoPro around. I think we'll start to see more and more of that. Our work with the NFL in the States, we have a creator of the week who has access to the fans, behind the scenes, that kind of stuff. So I think we'll see more and more of that. And I think it's crucial to tap into different audiences and bringing some of that across, crossover fans and crossover sports, crossover verticals. The NFL, in terms of crossover, they've released a gaming channel called Tuesday Night Gaming. I'd implore everyone to take a look. They basically take one player, one influencer, they play Madden against each other, and that is your Tuesday night live stream. A part of the weekly calendar where there is not a game. Obviously there's MNF, and then you've got the weekend games in NFL. There's your, NFL fix on a Tuesday night. So, yeah.
Tuesday Night Gaming. There you go. I'll be checking that out.
Yeah.
So you summarised it. Well, thanks very much to Jonny and to Ross.